Hello, my name is Joseph and I represent the company Motiva, and I'd like to introduce the product called Moscrif. Moscrif is a platform aimed at the development of mobile apps and games with a goal to reduce the development costs, including time, funds and knowledge. In today's world of mobile phones, we see the growth of mobile phones with operating system, so-called smartphones. The growth is clearly visible, and it comes at the expense of the phones without an operating system. However, there are many operating systems on the market, with big players standing behind each of them. Apple came with iOS, Android is made by Google, and is supported by other mobile vendors such as Samsung, HTC or LG. There is also Symbian by Nokia, New OS Bada by Samsung, Windows Mobile, and Windows Phone by Microsoft, and so on. As a result of many operating systems with powerful players behind, the segment of operating systems will most likely be divided among those companies for quite some time to come. The division of the market share will also remain significant. We can hardly expect to see the same happening as in the field of desktop operating systems, where we have one dominating player in the field of the operating systems. If we want to develop an application or a game for these phones, we have to keep the variety and differences in all these platforms in mind. At the moment, there is no significantly dominant system on the market, and the market shares of individual operating systems also vary depending on the continent. Therefore, the development is very demanding, and it has to be done many times. Depending on the budget and capabilities, we have to omit, so to say, less interesting operating systems, or we have to make a special effort to porting these applications to each OS we want to support. And here comes the space for Moscrif, which allows the development for various operating systems, while the costs remain almost the same as developing for one platform only. Let me show you an example. Our task is to create the application, game or business application for our client. Of course, we want it to run on as many phones as possible, as it could be the client's requirement who operates globally. At first, we analyze the application. We design its graphical, functional and data aspects, and we start the programming, although we have to make the programming as many times as many systems we want to support. For example, we're going to support Android, then Symbian, Windows Mobile, Apple iOS, or let's say Samsung's Bada operating system. This means that we have one task or one idea we could materialize in one mobile application. But as we have 5 mobile platforms, we get 5 times the costs of programming, time and human resources. However, if we decide to solve this problem using Moscrif, we get one idea solved only at one cost and time. As a result, Moscrif allows us to lower the costs of time and human resources. By shortening the time and lowering the costs, we become more effective with one significant fact, that Moscrif provides our application to various operating systems, and therefore we can aim at markets that we wouldn't aim normally. Also, we can provide the application to the mobile phones where we would have to make a special effort. Moscrif is the so-called SDK. It's a set of tools consisting of various parts. The most important part is compiler, which compiles the source codes at the input and translates them to the so-called bytecode. This bytecode is subsequently executed by a virtual machine supported by Moscrif. Besides the source codes at the input written in the dialect of JavaScript language, there could be other sources in other formats such as images, databases, XML files, audio files, and so on. The format of the additional resources can vary, and there are no conditions as to what format it should be. Basically, it depends on the needs of the application. Except the source and additional resources, we need to set up the application for different platforms. This necessity comes from the nature of those platforms. Usually it is the specification of icons for executors. In some cases the platforms require so-called manifest files or application IDs provided by the supplier of the OS, or the application market at which the app is going to be introduced. Besides the compiler and virtual machine, Moscrif includes the integrated environment, which can but doesn't have to be used by the programmers. They can use other familiar environments. There is also a set of libraries, it's called Framework, which is also voluntary, and programmers can use their own or provided framework adjusted to their needs. There are skins and themes provided too, and these can be applied to the applications with user interface. There are also documents provided. Another thing Moscrif includes is a set of tools aimed at creation of native installers that produce the output installation for individual platforms supported by Moscrif. At the moment, they include Windows Mobile, Windows CE, Samsung Bada, Symbian, Android, iOS support coming soon. This means Moscrif will be able to create apps for iPhone and iPad, and depending on the interest, Moscrif can be ported to WebOS or Brew. As a matter of fact, Moscrif can be ported to any operating system allowing the native programming.